Will the November 20th, 2013 meeting of the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission please come to order? Thank you all for your attendance this evening. For the benefit of those present who may not have participated in the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, I will review our public hearing procedure, which is as follows. We will read the legal notice for the public hearing portion of the meeting as published in the local newspaper. The applicants will then be invited to come forward and present their case, explaining to the Commission and the public what is specifically being requested of the subject property. Written comments from town agencies pertaining to the application will then be read into the record if the Commission has received any. The Commissioners will then ask their clarifying questions, and then the public will be invited to ask any questions they have about the application. I will then ask those in attendance who support the application to please come forward and make their statement, and then I will ask those in attendance who oppose the application to please come forward and make their statements. As this is a public hearing, it will be necessary for those coming forward to ask questions or to speak for or against any application to please identify themselves and state their name and address for the record prior to proceeding. At the conclusion of all statements from the public and the applicant, I will close the public hearing on the application. The applicant and the public are then free to leave or remain for the balance of the public hearings in the regular meeting, at which time the Commission will discuss each application under consideration and try to reach a decision. Each applicant will be notified in writing as to any decisions of this Commission. The applicant and/or any aggrieved party with legal standing will have the right to appeal this decision to Superior Court within the statutory time frame if they so desire. All decisions reached at this meeting will be available to the public the next day by either visiting or calling the Planning and Zoning Office after 9:30 a.m. Seated this evening are the following Guilford Planning and Zoning Commissioners: David Grigsby, Walter Corbiere, Ray Bauer, Tom Kloss, Josh Hirschman, Frank DeAndrea, Rich Meyer. Staff present this evening is George Kral, the Town Planner, Reggie Reed, Zoning Enforcement Officer. Our Secretary this evening is Katie, and Shannon Gale is the videographer. Will the Secretary please read the legal notice?
Legal notice, Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission. Notice is hereby given that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a public hearing on November 20th, 2013 at 7:30 p.m. at the Nathaniel B. Green Community Center, Monunketuk Room, 2nd floor, 32 Church Street, Guilford, Connecticut, for the following purposes. Number 1, Smith, Martin, 20 Dunk Rock Road, map 45, lot 30, zone R3, revision to special permit, addition to commercial building and residential zone, also lot line revision, section 273-13A, use variance granted 8/24/1994. Number 2, Lighthouse Properties of Milford 2, 28 Vineyard Point Road, map 2, lot 13, zone R2, revision to coastal area management site plan for addition to house and deck, and special permit for construction on lot under 10,000 square feet, section 273-91 and section 273-15G. Copies of these applications are available for inspection in the Office of the Planning and Zoning Commission, Town Hall South, 50 Boston Street, Guilford, Connecticut. At this hearing, persons may attend and be heard, and written communications will be received. Dated at Guilford, Connecticut, this 31st day of October, 2013. Ray Bauer, Chairman.
Thanks very much, Walter. Okay, first item on the agenda this evening, Regina Sullivan. This is a special permit for an accessory apartment in a single-family dwelling.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Howard Cullen, agent for Regina and Amy. All right.
If you could just give us your address, please, sir.
28 Pearl Street.
Great, thank you.
The purpose for us being here this evening is we would like to take the existing 3-bedroom home that is located at the corner of Milford Road and North Madison, convert that into a 1-bedroom in-law apartment, create a 2-bedroom primary residence attached to the end and keeping within the variance that we were granted earlier.
Okay. Let me just read one letter that we received from Dennis Johnson, the Director of Health, dated November 1st. The applicant's proposed apartment addition will not increase the total number of bedrooms in the dwelling and is compatible with the existing septic systems facility currently on site. And then we also have a record of a notice of variance that was granted for an 11.74-foot variance from the street setback requirements to allow this to be done. Questions of the applicant?
I do have a question of Reggie.
Please, go ahead.
In the accessory apartment worksheet, at the bottom, it says variance is granted 1023 for 11.74 from the foot street setback requirement for Milford Road and for the 10-year age requirement of 273-19B. And in Dennis's letter, it doesn't, in Dennis's variance, I don't see here where there's anything about the variance for the 10-year requirement.
Dennis who?
Dennis Doster.
I'm just slightly confused also about the 1994 versus the 2013. Is that?
Well, I'm saying that somehow, it says here that they were granted a variance for the 10-year requirement of 273-19B. But on the letter from Dennis, I don't see anything in here about that kind of variance.
It says nature of the application, allow construction of an addition to allow the
Okay.
existing house to be converted to an accessory apartment in a house less than 10 years old.
Okay,
It's on the notice of variance.
I see it. I see it now. I didn't see it. I apologize.
That's okay. It's good to get that settled.
Good catch.
It was confusing.
Good catch.
Just one other comment. Everybody's on tonight since we need 7 members. We have 7 here. Any other questions of the applicant? Are there any questions from the public? Is there anybody wishing to speak in favor of the application? Anybody wishing to speak against? Okay, last opportunity for questions from the commission. The checklist was completed correctly.
I have a copy of it, actually.
Yep, I know, so everything is fine as far as
Yes,
you're
it is.
concerned, Reg? All right, anything else? Okay, hearing no other comments, I will close the public hearing. Thank you very much. Next item is Martin Smith, 20 Dunk Rock Road. This is a revision to a special permit, addition to a commercial building in a residential zone, and also a lot line revision. This one also had a variance granted back on 8/24/1994. Sir?
Basically, we purchased a lot, a building in 2010 when we had the property surveyed for a fence put on the other side of the property. It was discovered that the lot lines were right up onto the driveways of the adjoining neighbors on the other side. And as a good neighbor gesture, we offered to realign the property lines to give them a little space around their driveway. So it seemed prudent to, since it's a non-conforming use, non-conforming lot, commercial in a residential zone, it seemed prudent to come before you to get the lot line revision cleared to maintain the variance that was granted to the property that when we purchased the property.
What was the variance that was
For
granted?
an addition to the building, basically I think it was a 20 by 24 addition.
Okay.
It was granted to the previous owners.
And you needed a variance in order to do, was it lot coverage, or was it?
No,
just-
it was a use variance.
Okay.
And the construction of expansion of a commercial building in a residential zone.
Okay, so that's what the variance was for.
Correct.
Yeah, their offices, and they had planned to increase their office space.
Okay,
This was a non-conforming use prior to that. It was
so it was grandfathered in?
architectural
Okay.
offices, so we got a variance to expand the non-conforming use. And the application before you tonight is a special permit to modify the non-conforming use, the lot, by deeding off a small portion of it as was
Okay.
described.
Thank you.
Is that, and it doesn't
1,200.
impact the square foot or anything in that zone? I mean, it doesn't
No,
make
the
it?
lot is still conforming.
Okay,
But it's to show that 1,268 square feet of the property is being deeded over to the neighbor.
okay. There are no letters in the file from any of the town agencies, so I'll ask if there's any questions from the commission.
I'm sorry, are they adding on to this building, or?
No, there was a variance granted for an addition.
They have the right to put an addition on the building.
Slow down.
Sorry, I'm
One,
sorry.
2, 3 people at the most can talk. All right.
The variance was granted to add an addition back in '94. The addition was never put on the building. They still have the right to do that
Okay.
addition. I don't believe they have any intention of doing it now.
Not currently.
So this really, notwithstanding the confusion in the way we wrote the legal notice, this application has nothing to do with the addition.
Okay.
This application is to modify the non-conforming use activity by
Shrinking the size
shrinking
of
the
the
lot
lot a little
size
bit.
slightly, yeah. Whether it really even requires that, we kind of debated that, but
Well, physically, there's going to be no changes here. It's just
Correct.
moving the property
Right.
line.
Actually, we're simplifying the boundary. The boundary was kind of a crooked line before, and we're straightening it out.
Okay.
It's-
Any?
It's
I'm sorry.
possible that this doesn't even have to be before us.
it's possible.
It's possible that ZBA, that this is actually just done.
Yeah, we debated that. I think when this was discussed a year or so ago, we couldn't really figure it out. We said, well, why not go for a special permit? Just in case anybody wants to say anything about it, they have
Be
the right
safe
to.
than sorry.
Yeah, so-
Any questions from the public? Anybody in the public wishing to speak in favor? Anybody in the public wishing to speak against? Okay, hearing none, I'll call one more time if there's any questions or input from the commission. Hearing none, we'll close that public hearing. Thank you very much. The next item is Lighthouse Properties of Milford 2. This is a revision to a CAM site plan for addition to the house and deck and a special permit for construction on a lot under 10,000 square feet.
Hi, Michael Dolman, representative of Lighthouse Properties 2, 27 Silver Street, Branford.
Thank you.
We're here tonight really for a couple of reasons. Number one, to make this house a little more habitable for a future buyer. And after doing some review, we realized we were a little short on storage, and in an effort, really, we made a big effort in the beginning to provide off-street parking, and we think having some additional storage space, which we increased the garage with, was one really important factor. Another item, we were anticipating putting some utilities in the basement. After doing some testing on the site, we discovered there was a lot more ledge there than we thought, and we did not think blasting down there was a good idea. The houses are on top of each other. The next door neighbor has a pool, so we're looking to put on a utility room in some area that we had previously been approved to have an outdoor deck and patio. And thirdly, we were looking to add a little bit of dining space to the kitchen. Again, just something we thought if we were coming back in here, we might as well take a real good look at the plan on our behalf. And we feel like we needed a little bit of additional dining room space. And since we were taking away an outdoor balcony, we are looking to add one to the rear of the house. And I have a set of plans here that kind of, I marked it all out. Okay, you guys have the plans, so it's pretty clearly marked out. I brought an old site plan too.
Sure, that would be great to start with that.
Okay.
While we're waiting, let me just read into the record a letter dated November 20th from Kevin McGhee, the Town Environmental Planner, regarding this application. The applicant is proposing to modify its previous application approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission at its July 17, 2013 meeting. The proposed modification of adding an additional 96 square feet to the proposed first floor of the house is minor in nature compared to the overall reconstruction of the property. In order to make sure that the coastal resources are protected during the construction process, I recommend that the Commission's conditions of approval from July 17, 2013 remain in effect for this modification. You're okay with that
Yeah.
condition? Okay.
So, this is the original CAM approval. We have an area right here, which was a ground level patio, which we thought we should move the utilities to there since we can't put a basement in.
That's in the utility closet.
Yes.
Okay.
And we're adding some additional area into the garage right here, which was again a covered patio. We thought it would be real important to provide some more indoor storage down there. We worked really hard to get off-street parking, plenty of it, and we just think, having the available storage would be very important on the first floor.
So then you're just bumping this out?
Yes,
That's
it's all
what
within the footprint of the house that we had existing.
Is that covered entry moving?
The garage is expanding out, the covered entry's going away, it's becoming garage space. On the
So
first
that
floor
portion
level.
of covered entry is, no?
It's gone. I don't know why they,
Hold on. This is the new, right?
Correct.
That's the old.
this is the old.
Looks like the covered entry is now over the footprint of the driveway now. Isn't that what that says?
That is not the case.
That is not the case.
No, I don't know why they wrote that on there.
Well, how should it be according to what you're
Just
asking for?
like the floor plan shows it.
But there's no longer a covered entry.
No, there's no longer a covered entry.
Okay. You're just essentially moving the wall, which way are we going? East.
Yes.
Okay. And that was a deck. Was that covered deck?
Yeah, that was a covered deck.
Okay. Like a first and a second story deck or something?
Exactly.
Okay, so
With a
that's
ground
now
level
going to be a
patio.
utility closet, and that upper deck is no longer going to be part of the dining area.
Correct.
Okay.
And the square footage of this little chunk here is
40. It's
40.
They're marked on.
And
on
56.
plan. Yeah, 56 and 40.
and the total surface area of the parking is unchanged,
Correct.
and the cover has moved across.
There is no longer a cover. I'm not sure why Stevens.
So you don't plan to actually, you don't plan to put
No,
that
because
in?
we plan to maintain all the regulations of the R2 zone.
And a cover there would not meet those
I'm not
regulations?
sure if it would. We were really close on all coverages and structures, so we tried to, stay within all the guidelines of the R2 regulations.
When we're talking existing here and in here, you're talking about the old house.
The approved plan. We demoed a house there, and we got approvals to build a new house.
When I said existing, are those figures for what was the old house? This is the old plan, remember?
Yes.
So when this thing said existing, that was the coverage of the old house. I'm just trying to keep
No,
this
the
straight.
proposed new house is existing. I think that's what he's referring to here.
So then these numbers are for what you were planning to
What
build,
we were approved to build.
not what was there before. You
Correct.
demoed it.
Correct.
Okay.
Because when we came in for our CAM application, we had to incorporate what was going to be the new structure, not what was there
And you've tried to conform the new structure to all the zoning requirements?
to an R2 zone.
Okay. And this structure also still conforms to an R2?
Yes. We kept the living area, the coverage, everything. We actually ran that by with Reggie, we met with her, and, we tried not to exceed any of the restrictions of the R2 zone.
And the front of the house has no on this new application has no movement towards the road.
Yeah.
And the northernmost adjustment is this piece of deck for, that you'll now be using as utility.
Correct,
There's nothing changing above this.
correct.
Okay. David, you look like you might still have a question.
Well, no, I'm fairly confident that when, this is the old plan
That's the one that was,
that we approved.
that we approved
yeah,
July
So
13th.
when we were talking about
Correct.
existing, that was the old structure, and the proposed was the new structure. And now on this one, you're still referring to when you say existing, you're referring to the old house that was
Okay, yes.
demolished. So instead of, we are bumping up a little bit in terms of the coverage and the floor area, but we're still either going to be a reduction of the, well, the point is that it's under the maximum allowed, even though it is bumping up a little bit. It's going from 11.9 to 12.3%
Yes.
and 28.5% floor area up to 28.8, but 30 and 15%. So we're under all of that. We're not going any closer to the neighbors. And what do we think of our covered entry? Is that happening or not
That
happening?
is not happening.
That's not happening. So we're going to have to get a revised site plan?
It just is deleted in your approval, just to make it clear, so that when the building permit comes in, we know what we're looking for.
Okay.
Okay.
And when we say without covered entry, that's specific enough for,
Well,
Think-
for the east of the building.
Yeah, you're gonna be getting a building permit pretty quickly, I'm sure.
We have a building permit.
for the previously approved permit, yeah. So you want to modify that to
Yes.
encompass these new changes.
And the last thing on here that we're looking for is a deck addition to the rear of the property. That's taking place of the first floor deck that was actually closer and probably more obtrusive to the neighbor. It wasn't here on the old plan, and here it is on the new plan.
And that deck is short enough that it's not counted into coverage because it's under 2 feet off the ground or whatever that requirement is? Or,
No,
It
they
is
did
being
all their
counted.
calculations here for coverage and everything else.
it is counted towards coverage or is not being counted?
The deck is counted towards coverage.
Okay,
And it still meets,
and we're still under the...
It's, right.
okay,
So, got it.
okay. Are there any other questions from the commission? Anything else from the public? Okay, hearing none, we'll close the public hearing on this matter. And I would like to request a motion to approve the revised agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, first item is Regina Sullivan. If we can get a motion on the floor, please.
Voted. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Proposed motion voted that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approve a special permit for an accessory apartment for Regina Sullivan at 4 Milford Road, map 60, lot 3, as shown on an application dated October 11, 2013, and plan prepared by Donning Collins Engineering Associates, dated 6/24/13, revised to 10/22/13, and architectural plans 4 sheets. This application is approved with no conditions. This application is approved based upon a finding that with the variance granted, it conforms with the zoning code. The special permit is effective on November 29, 2013, and upon filing with the town clerk.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion.
I have a question for the lawyers.
There are only 4 of us
Right.
here, so...
We'll all have 4 different opinions.
I'm confused. I mean, is there been precedent before that we have allowed, that their variances have been allowed to do something in less than 10 years? And how was
I
that,
wish I knew that before. I could have.
how was that
researched
considered in a
files.
hardship?
Is it accurate to say that...
Well, the ZBA granted the variance.
I know they did, but there's got to be a reason why they granted a variance, right?
Well, I
It's gotta
mean,
be
what
stated
what they're
reason.
saying
Yes,
here
it
is this
says-
has no
it
adverse
will
impact
tell
on
you
the
what-
comprehensive plan.
I
So,
don't know.
Tom, you're speaking of my favorite issue about the ZBA, that they should be finding a hardship. They should be finding some reason why the regulations as applies to that lot create a hardship requiring or allowing or justifying varying the regulations to that parcel. ZBA frequently does not.
yeah.
And so that's a legitimate question to say, what's the hardship? I don't know what the hardship
He's absolutely right. There's supposed to be a finding of a legal hardship. That's something unique about this property that sets it apart. So it's a hardship to enforce the regulations. I don't know. I mean, unfortunately, it's not our jurisdiction. And they did get the
Well-
variance, and it's a valid variance. So we have to take it as we...
So what this means going forward, that anybody can go to the ZBA and say they want a variance and put in buy a house, and the next year come in and say, I want to put an accessory apartment.
And if they can convince them that there's a hardship, you're right.
If they can
So,
convince 2 boards to say yes.
Maybe you gotta
then
go to
it's
the
done.
ZBA.
huh?
Maybe we have to go to the ZBA.
Bang on the table. I was under the impression that the focus of this less than 10 years old, more than 10 years old, was more about older buildings having an easier time getting accessory apartments to
Why would that make a difference?
very old buildings.
Well, what does the 10-year thing
I
have to do
think
with it?
the intent originally was that, this was explained to me once, I'm not sure I can articulate it precisely, but the intent was not to have accessory apartment applications coming up in developments of new houses where there was like new people moving in and maybe they wouldn't know or expect or anticipate that the neighbor was going to possibly want to create an accessory apartment, so that the justification was you had to have a more established neighborhood, 10 years in this particular case, before you were eligible to apply. Now, in this particular case, in this neighborhood, this is not a neighborhood of new houses. This is a more established neighborhood, so perhaps that was the rationale. The fact that they didn't state it clearly in the record, that we have may not be, they may have very well, discussed a hardship and not produced it or said it very clearly. But that was the rationale for that time frame.
But based on the intent you described, it would be quite appropriate to approve this variance.
It's not really up to us.
It's not us.
It was granted, and it's before us with the granted legitimate valid variance, so for what it's, we have to assume that it's valid and hasn't been taken to court or anything.
And the existing structure was built in 1955. There's an addition being put onto it.
All right.
What about parking? I was just trying to understand. There's no garages as part of this.
There's enough parking for 3 cars.
There are three spaces on this bituminous driveway. Okay.
There's a lot of space over there.
All right.
Hard to gauge.
Any further discussion on the matter? Okay, then I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
I'm actually abstaining because I'm technically with Tom on the gist of the poorly justified variance.
Can't argue with that. Okay, so we had 6, 4, and 1 abstention, so it passes. Okay, if I can get another motion on the Martin Smith matter?
Voted that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approve a special permit for a change in a non-conforming use to allow the disposition of property at 20 Dunk Rock Road, map 45, lot 30, as shown on, quote, data accumulation plan showing property to be transferred to Barbara J. Bishop, end quote, prepared by Anderson Engineering and Surveying Associates, dated December 12, 2012. This special permit is approved based upon a finding that the disposition of land as shown will have no adverse impact on the surrounding residential area. The special permit is effective on November 29th, 2013, and upon filing with the town clerk.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
This is the last residential property in this residential zone, right? It abuts a couple of commercial.
Isn't this a commercial property?
Well,
This was a commercial property.
it is a commercial
Residential
property,
zone.
but it's a
Right.
residential zone.
I think that's what you meant.
Residential use in a commercial use in a residential zone
Abutting a commercial.
abutting a commercial zone.
Who is in this space now?
So it's a medical office.
I mean, this is right off of, when you get onto Dunk Rock, first left driveway. It's kind of in the back a little
I don't know
bit.
if it's the
Right
first one or
before you
not.
get to Route 1.
It's where Noise Vote used to have their architect's office.
Yes, that's what I was thinking.
Same
It's a
building.
medical office now?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
All right. Well, given that this is a grandfathered use, and really all we're doing here is moving the property line, there's not going to be any external changes or movement of the business, I don't see any reason why we shouldn't go ahead and grant it. Any other discussion?
I also think we might have to. I mean, we don't, it's not totally clear whether or not we have the authority to refuse it.
Well, it's a commercial use in a residential zone, and they're making their property smaller. So they're, in a sense, moving the property line closer to this, in theory, non-residential, maybe not ideal to the neighborhood use. So that's why it's in front of us.
Do they have to give you a new set of Mylars? Does that all have to be done?
They have to file some kind of map in the town clerk. I don't know whether it has to be a Mylar or not. I don't think that.
Well, there's probably a map that the surveyor did with the new property line, and then there's going to have to be, so that's going to have to be filed on the records.
It exists.
Okay, and then there's going to have to be some kind of agreement or something for a boundary line agreement between the two owners, acknowledge and referencing that map and acknowledging that this is the new property line. So attorneys will have to, well, whoever's doing it will have to file it. Okay, any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Okay, that's passed. Next item, Lighthouse Properties of Milford 2, if I can get a motion. And I would just call to the attention that I think we want to make sure we include the same conditions from the July 17th grant into this particular one.
Voted.
Also, the condition about not including the covered
Canopy.
Covered
Right,
entry to
right.
the east.
Okay, good, so we'll get that correct.
Voted that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approve of a revision to a coastal area management site plan and a special permit for Lighthouse Properties of Milford 2 at 28 Vineyard Point Road, map 2, lot 13, as shown on coastal site plan property of Lighthouse Properties of Milford 2, prepared by Thomas A. Stevens and Associates, Inc., dated May 17, 2013, revised to November 1st, 2013. This application is approved with the following conditions: that the conditions from the July 17, 2013 plan approval remain in effect, and that there be no covered entry over the east entry point. This application is approved based upon a finding that it conforms with the zoning code and is consistent with the coastal management policies of the state of Connecticut. The special permit is effective on November 29, 2013, and upon filing with the town clerk.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion.
Straightforward, right?
eventually, it's straightforward.
Yeah, I think we did get to the bottom of it, and with the conditions that we've attached, especially condition number 2, I think that gives guidance to when the revised building permit is issued, or requested and issued. And we're talking about a fairly minor change, which still conforms with the zoning regulations. All right, any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, a call for a vote. All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Okay, that's passed. All right, we have a couple of receives here. The first one is a CAM site plan for Brooks Landing LLC, Sachem's Avenue. This is a coastal area management site plan footpath restoration within 100 feet of the critical coastal resource, 273-91. Receiving set a public hearing date of December 18th.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, it's received. A couple special permits. SMHK LLC, 466 West Street. This is a special permit for an accessory apartment in a single-family dwelling, 273-19. Receive and set a public hearing date of December 18th.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
It's approved. David V.O., 521 State Street. This is a special permit for an accessory apartment in a barn and studio office and guest accommodations in a corn crib.
That should be fun.
27336. Receive and set a public hearing date of December 18th.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We have a letter apparently from the Guilford Food Center related to property at 77 Whitfield Street in the C1 zone. We have a request to approve, for approval to place a 40-foot refrigerated trailer at the rear of the food center parking lot from approximately November 21st through December 26th of this year. There is a letter, and I think we do this just about every year, don't we, George? Yes.
Yes.
Let me just read it quickly into the record here from Ronald and Rosa from the Guilford Food Center, dated November 19th. I'm writing this letter requesting approval to the P&Z for a 40-foot refrigerated trailer, 8 feet shorter than previous years, to be placed in the rear parking lot of the Guilford Food Center at 77 Whitfield Street. Trailer will be located there on or around the 21st of November until December 26th. As I have already made you aware in the past, we have limited cooler freezer space, and it is crucial that we have this extra storage for the holidays. I'm sorry for this last-minute request, but we didn't feel we were going to use a trailer this year due to the number of orders we've already taken and the orders we expect to still receive. Our plans have changed. All right, so Reg, this is basically the same location, everything. It's 8 feet shorter.
Same,
than it used to be.
yes, it's a shorter trailer,
Okay.
so,
Didn't we at some point, in the not-too-distant past, decide that, like for the Walmart thing, that we were going to make, instead of doing this every year, it was going to be every other year?
Why would we do that?
I don't remember.
Because it's the same thing every year,
Right,
and
but why would we
And
make him come
I
back.
think we voted on something to do that.
Like a 2-year approval.
Yeah.
Instead of a one-year approval, so they
I
didn't
think
have to.
I know we talked about it.
I don't remember.
I don't remember voting on it. I
Personally,
know we
think
talked
maybe
about
they
it, saying
have
that it was kind of
approval.
redundant to make them keep coming back for the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
So you think maybe they have approval and they don't realize it because they thought it was just an annual approval from last year?
Well, it may not apply to them because I think it might have been, I'm not sure what the discussion was about. And it may have been Walmart because they asked for some extra space in the back.
Yeah, that's when we had the discussion. It was about their trailers on the side of the building.
And I think at that time we decided to make this to make that the written letter for 2 years, but I could be wrong.
We just did that for Bishop's very recently. We can do that, right?
Well, we could. I
make
mean,
this
they've
for
only
2 years.
asked for it for 1 year, and they actually said that they weren't even planning to do it this year until they had apparently a lot of, additional orders come in. So, I mean, if they're not asking for it,
The gentleman for Walmart had expressed interest in, he asked us why he had to come back.
So, I mean, I'm certainly okay with granting it, but,
But I am too, but I mean, they wouldn't know to ask for 2 years if it wasn't public information that we were allowing it for 2 years.
yeah.
So maybe we need to tell them that if they're gonna do this again next year, they could ask for 2 years.
You could allow 5 years if you want.
Yeah.
Why would we ever say no to them?
It's kind of crowded back there.
It's
Only
a
if there are a lot
small
of
store, they don't
complaints.
have the space.
No, I mean, that's what I mean. I mean, the community really embraces this business, and they do this every year, and I've never heard a complaint. Have you? Has anybody ever complained about it?
Some of the neighboring property owners talk about having access and whether the truck is blocking their ability to drive through or
Right.
pass
Yeah, we
through.
did
So-
have-
But that's resolved, they don't put it.
I mean, I think, again, part of it is to make sure, I mean, it's gotten 8 foot smaller this year, that's good. What happens if it gets 4 feet bigger 1 year and there's an issue with the turnaround radius or something? So, I mean, they
Let
did.
it go this year.
Yeah, I mean,
just
they.
want to bring it up.
No, it's a good point. I think it's a good point, Tom, but since this is all they've asked for.
What we could do is tell them that if they come in again, as long as it's 40 feet and they stay 40 feet, we could give it to them for 4 years, for 2 years. and they
Have no
wouldn't ask.
problem with that if they ask for it. All right, so why don't we call for a vote on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay. The next one, we have some permission to invoke a municipal citation fine for a deck and privacy well and storage shed installed without the approval of a special permit and a building permit at 342 Stepstone Hill Road in the R4 zone, property of Oswaldo Torres and Ahmed Ishfaq. Okay.
You have photograph?
Yep.
It's pretty egregious.
Well, I went out there over a month ago and wrote them a letter, and they're just not doing anything about this. They think it's okay. This is a non-conforming use in a residential zone. So anytime they add to this building, this is the Stepstone Hill Plaza, the little tiny, where Krauser's store is now. There's a little liquor store there. There's a vacancy in the end store.
This is an apartment up above, right?
Yeah, and there's an apartment up above, and they went and put this storage shed on top of the roof. They sort of have like a privacy wall here, and it was all done without a building permit application. We have no idea whether the roof has enough integrity to hold up that storage shed and anything that they decide to put in it, but
There is an back entrance here, right?
there's a stairway going up to the roof to get into the apartment.
So then this whole deck railing and everything, that's all new deck that they put on?
That's correct.
Um,
So if the customer isn't responding to me, if the violator isn't responding to me, I have no choice but to request permission to invoke the municipal fine citation.
What-
Perhaps maybe that'll get their attention.
One question, the fact that they didn't get a special permit is in our shop, but if there was a problem with the building permit, is that ZBA that deals with that, or is that us as well?
That's us. It would have
Okay.
to be a special permit.
Okay, because I thought if there was a denial of a building permit, you go to the ZBA to appeal
The
it.
permit, they didn't even ask for a permit.
Okay,
Denial.
It was
okay.
done without any permits.
okay. I see your point.
And they're ignoring you.
There isn't one to appeal. All right, so,
What sort of measures have you taken to get their attention?
I've written them a notice of violation, I've gone to the
And when
store,
was
and I've
that?
talked to the people.
When did you write them a letter, you know?
Unfortunately, I didn't bring it with me, but it was over a month ago.
Okay.
And we send it certified,
Got it in the box? Okay.
so we know they get it, right?
Oh, yes, they got it.
And what's the, what will the citation fine be?
Well, the commission has to decide that too.
And
When does it take effect?
if they were to get the citation fine and then they were to come in and retroactively request permits, would we still go forward with the citation fine, or would we just approve the?
They have the option to request a hearing if they receive a fine and they feel that it was levied.
And that hearing is here?
And, no, with the hearing officer.
So did you send this out on October 31st?
I did.
all right, so we sent it out, there has not been any response back at all.
And you talked to them in person?
Yes,
And what
2 weeks before I sent the violation.
did they indicate then that they were going to take care of it, or they
Yes,
just,
and they're not.
they haven't? Okay.
What would taking care of it, what does taking care of it mean?
Either remove it or
Come get a permit?
come to the Planning
After the
and Zoning
fact.
Commission with a special permit application
After the fact?
after the fact, to have this on top of the roof, to put this addition onto a
Okay.
non-conforming use in a residential zone, and also seek a building permit application.
Because this work should be inspected to make sure it's
Oh,
safe
sure.
and everything, and it
Does-
conforms to the building code.
When you get our approval on this, when would you write them a letter first?
Tomorrow.
Certified letter saying that you've been authorized by the Planning and Zoning Commission to commence a fine as of a certain date?
Mhm.
So you could give them like 2 weeks or something like that to...
I could, if the commission wants to give a 2-week grace period.
What I'm sort of just concerned about is the individual not realizing, some people don't, I think, understand completely what their actions are, and when they get the fine immediately, they sort of get really, I think it might be better, like what Tom is sort of suggesting, to tell them, okay, you owe us a certain amount of money, whatever we agreed to, pursuant to a fine, if you don't comply with our regulations in 30 days or so.
We don't want the fine money, we actually want.
Yeah,
compliance.
exactly, that's the goal.
Well, potentially, if they put something really heavy in this chest that they built up there, it could crash through the roof and kill someone that's in the liquor store right below. So it's really incumbent on us to get their attention quickly and make them understand that they need to show that this is not going to kill someone. If we don't do something, we would have a hand in that.
I mean, I would be in favor of splitting the difference and giving them a week. I think that's more than reasonable, since they're on notice already that there's a problem here. They say they have agreed to fix it, which they haven't done. So I would be willing to go for a week, and then if they don't respond, at that point, the fine starts. And then they will take it to the hearing officer if they so. But, we need to move this along, I think. It's not like we're blindsiding them. I mean, the CEO's been out there, they've received written notification already by certified mail, and they've been spoken to directly and had the opportunity to ask any questions. They agreed to remedy it, and so far, nothing's happened. So I think we unfortunately need to put, some teeth into the request.
Now, do you have an amount, or do we have to recommend an amount per day or per week?
There is a limit. Do you know what the
The
range?
limit is $150, but the commission can set whatever fine amount they want.
Do you have a recommendation, or the commissioners who have been around here for more of these
Yeah,
violations?
I would recommend the fine be $100 a day. That's usually how we do it.
Good.
Well, unless it's very severe, and then it's $150 a day.
All right, so your
But in this
recommendation is
case,
$100 a
I would
day.
recommend $100 a day.
And you think a grace period has
And
worked in the past?
I'm more than happy to send a letter out to the two violators. There are two owners of this property. One lives in Bridgeport, one lives in Hampton. I'm more than happy to send certified letters out to both of them, telling them it was discussed at the meeting, even show them the minutes of the meeting, and that I have authorization to start municipal fine citation proceedings within whatever date the commission sets. If you want to set it for the second week in December, we're almost at the end of November, that's all right too. Whatever date you decide to set, and I'll put that in the letter.
And you don't think we would be undercutting you by giving them
No.
that? That would be 3 weeks.
No, you would not undercut me.
Do they own, do these two folks own this whole center?
Yes, they do.
And they did
It's
this
in-
work themselves?
It's in both names. I don't know who.
Well, we don't, yeah, no, we
Doesn't
get
matter.
it, but
It's
they're
property owner, no
ultimately
matter what, it's
responsible
not the
for it
property
since they're the
They're
owners.
responsible. I went out there on October 7th and talked to the woman who the work was done for.
Okay.
And she said she was going to remove it within 10 days.
Doesn't she work in the store?
Yes, she does.
So it could fall in on her.
All right, so what we have before us is a
No, she
request
works
to
in the Krausers, not the-
initiate a $100
store.
a day fine, and I guess the only question is, when do we start it? I would say, Reg, if you can get the letters out tomorrow, would that be, the certified mail out tomorrow, would that be possible?
Oh, sure.
Okay, so if we use that, is, you figure they're going to take a day to get it, maybe take them a little while to read it.
Hampton and Bridgeport.
Yeah,
give
so they'll get it.
days each.
All right, so I would say, what, beginning of December?
Why don't you say that you want to do the first or second week of December? First.
I would do the first.
First, so it would be Monday, December 2nd?
That's fine with me if it is with the commissioners.
Is that tight?
That would almost be a week from now. You want to give them
So-
2 weeks? We're talking about 2
Well,
weeks.
Why don't we make that Friday?
Well, you
all right, well,
Friday the 6th?
yeah, Friday the
Friday.
6th,
Yeah.
because I think you raise a good issue about the safety here. We know, because it hasn't been inspected, the railings could
Right.
be defective, somebody could fall, or this could collapse through the roof, who knows?
What
And
is
this
the
has
purpose
nothing to
of
do with
that
these.
plywood there?
That's a
Sorry?
storage shed. That has
Oh, no,
doors.
here's the storage.
No,
shed
storage shed's
back,
here. That's the privacy wall.
They built this whole thing?
Apparently.
Get out of here. You built a garage on a roof?
This plywood is,
What's a shed? It's just a shed,
Oh,
man.
my
Nothing-
goodness. Are they parking cars up there too? I mean,
Sell those at your store?
But we don't know, and that's,
I don't understand.
I hope not to these folks.
Reggie, this has nothing to do with the exposed pipes that we're looking at on the front of the photo, correct? That are coming out of the wall?
exposed pipes?
The blue and the white, with the little...
looks like
the little
drain
yellow-
pipes of some sort.
Don't
with
worry
the
about it,
white
it's just the
PVC.
fuel oil pipe. It's just the plumbing for the furnace upstairs.
All right, okay, so is there
should
any
be serious
discussion?
about this
Maybe
stuff.
we can get a motion on this to move it forward, so, talking Friday the 6th, we're talking $100 a day.
Yes.
So moved.
All right,
$100 a day, Friday the 6th.
all right, do I hear a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, Reg, so you're all set, $100 a day, beginning, they have until the 6th to respond back and take action. Okay, next item, we have a discussion of a moratorium regarding the medical marijuana dispensaries, producers, and other facilities. George, I think you said that we had some input from Chuck, that we might
Yes,
want to consider this.
This is probably a referral to the zoning committee, but a couple of weeks ago, Chuck sent me, or in some other conversation, he pointed out to me that a number of our sister municipalities are adopting moratoria under the zoning code to put a period of time during which medical marijuana dispensaries, producers, and other facilities cannot be located in their jurisdiction. You may know that Connecticut has authorized medical marijuana production and dispensing in Connecticut pursuant to a process managed by the Department of Consumer Affairs. They've requested proposals from developers to create these facilities. There's a limited number of them. None were proposed in Guilford pursuant to their first RFP. The proposals were due November 15th. Chuck pointed out to me that I think both Milford and Orange had created medical had created moratoria. He thought that maybe we should think about doing it. And so that's why it's on your agenda. As you know, zoning commissions can adopt moratoria as part of the zoning code. It has to be for a limited period of time, and you have to be doing something during that period of time to address whatever the issue is. So we could discuss this in zoning and perhaps do something along these lines.
Right. I mean, although planning and zoning committees are next in the discussion, obviously we've had a lot of churn here, and I think we're still down at least, 2 members on the commission that the Board of Selectmen tell me they're going to work diligently to fill. So what we're going to need to reconstitute the planning committee and the zoning committee to start moving some business forward. So the first thing I'd ask the commission members is, everybody seated here tonight, if anyone is interested in chairing either the planning or the zoning committee, if you could get your names to me, shoot me an email. And then what I would like to do is just meet with once we get the chairman named, meet with you, and we'll...
I thought I was the chairman.
Are you the current one?
Zoning.
I thought I was the committee.
Well, you are. That's what I'm...
Serious?
Right.
You said that before.
Well,
You're the only one
that's a
left.
really scary thought.
You're the only one left. So, but in any event, if we could
My
get
zoning or my
some suggestions from people who would like to chair them, and then we'll meet and divvy up the rest of the folks on the commission so that we have people to fill those committee slots and get those reinvigorated and moving forward again.
Do we have the power to adopt this moratorium tonight?
No, you have to, this is like a
This is-
zoning
has to
amendment.
be
You'd have to have a
noticed.
public hearing. There would have to be specific language, the time period.
Can we include
We have to
our
advertise it.
adult entertainment facilities in that moratorium, since we're discussing it
That would
on
be
this
up-
table
that-
5?
That would be separate. That's really not, that's constitutionally protected activity. That would be something else, I think.
And marijuana, the Constitution doesn't protect marijuana?
No, that's a
federal
new law
government
that
doesn't
now
sanction that.
authorizes
Yeah,
marijuana.
there's a conflict of laws question, but
Okay.
be that as it
I
may.
mean, perhaps we could do that, but that would have to be a separate.
Separate issue.
Why, so
Well,
why is Chuck proposing this?
He's not. I don't want to suggest that he's recommending or proposing it. He just called to my attention that several municipalities in our region were doing this, and he said, you should think about doing it. And I said, okay, I'll discuss it with the commission.
why don't we do this then, George? If you could you draft for our next meeting what would need to go out to public hearing to
Sure.
put this in place? What I'm concerned about is making sure that we're doing something about it.
Right.
And, we can't just pass the moratorium and say, well, we get around to it, we'll deal with it. So that's why we need to also get probably, I'm guessing this should go to the planning committee, because,
Well, there's two different things. First will be adopting the moratorium.
right,
The second thing will then creating whatever the regulatory scheme is that regulates these things in Guilford.
correct.
Should we want to.
Should, out of the planning, that should be looked at and studied, and then we should come to a determination
Moratorium
what
language
we
is
want to
very
do.
simple. I mean, I've
Okay.
seen the one that Orange did. It's a couple of sentences long.
And
so
how
it's-
long was Orange's moratorium?
I forget. I think it's either 6 months or 9 months. I thought it was less than a year. I can't remember.
All right.
Could you clarify, what is a dispensary? This isn't something they're going to sell in a drugstore, like by prescription?
Well, all I know, I've seen the RFP that the Department of Consumer Affairs put out. They've asked people who want to do this to make proposals to the state. It has to be licensed by the state. I think they said they were going to do 5 of them across the state. 3 in Connecticut?
3 licenses, yeah.
So it sounds like
Frank
Frank knows
doesn't
all about it. Maybe they'll put us in Dunkin' Donuts.
Maybe he knows where they already are.
You have to have,
We're on the record.
you have to have a pharmacist who's, either on the premises or associated with the ownership somehow. And it's basically a facility where, with the doctor's prescription, you can come in and obtain marijuana for the purposes of, treatment of the disease or whatever it
So-
is, mitigate.
This won't be available in, like Walgreens or CVS?
I
That's
guess
not-
it's possible that Walgreens or CVS could propose to sell this as part of one of their drugs. I don't think that's happening, from what I've been told, but I don't really know. But
So this is a standalone store that just sells marijuana?
it probably would sell other products as well, from what I've seen. There, others that I've seen in other states, like in Colorado. They also sell, paraphernalia. They also sell clothing. It's sort of like a head
Marijuana
shop.
clothing?
Yeah.
Probably,
Made from that.
probably the first thing
I don't know how
that,
it's
if we
gonna
do
play
go
out.
forward with the moratoria, is have the, whether we send it to planning or zoning, have them get someone in to
Do some
speak
research.
to
Right. We're just
us what,
speculating at this point.
because I think, but don't know, that there's a separate producer license from a separate
Yeah, I think that's
dispensary.
what
Like there's
Yeah,
only
I might have been
places that
misquoted.
can
There's
grow
three
it.
growers
Right.
going to be allowed in Connecticut.
However, as
Yeah.
far as
Dispensary.
dispensing
Those are
it,
different.
that's
Those are
different.
different,
So-
yes. Producers are different from dispensaries.
Right, so, anyways,
Applications.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I've looked into the California regs on this a little bit at different times, and San Francisco handled the sort of rollout of this in a much more orderly fashion, and they sort of planned for it and restricted it carefully and handled it in a lot of ways with a lot of upfront planning, and Los Angeles didn't, and Los Angeles is still in a bad way as a result of it. Now, I'm not saying that Guilford has a lot of similarities to either San Francisco or Los Angeles. But since, there aren't that many examples across the United States, I think a moratorium would be very wise, and any planning that we can do would be a big relief and would really be proactive. and
agreed,
protective.
agreed. So then I guess the direction would be to have George draft up the language, and then we'll take it up at our next meeting. And if necessary, then we'll send it out for a public hearing if we agree on it. Okay. All right, beyond that, we have one request to appoint Gary Arbuckle to the Route 1 West Committee as the representative from the Agricultural Commission, and that will be, I will approve that, so I think it's the chairman who approves those, so that will be fine. The other item we have, well, I want to, talk to him. The next item is the minutes from the 11/6/13. I wasn't here, so I'll just ask if there's anybody.
I had my packet, I left it at home, and the minutes were there. And there's no copy of the minutes in
I
the
have it.
packet that I got here.
I
I
approve it.
think we
Are
have,
they okay?
Yeah, the
Here.
minutes are okay. I looked at them.
I move to approve.
I second.
okay. Any changes, updates, modifications?
It looks good.
All right, then I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? And I will abstain.
Will we
Okay.
adjourn?
Having no further business, I'll call for a motion to adjourn.
Will we adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're adjourned.
Have